Hey everyone! This video is going to be a little bit different than my usual style because I'm going to be taking you behind the scenes of how I make a custom outfit for a stuffed animal, start to finish. Now let's get into it. First things first, let's meet our client. So this is Kaloy. He is my cousin's hippo stuffed animal and they requested for me to make him any kind of outfit I wanted. He's obviously not the standard Build-A-Bear size, like he's got this big stomach, he's in the sitting position which makes pants a little bit more difficult, and his large nose does cover up a lot of his chest. He also has these corduroy accents on his feet and nostril, so that's going to come into play later. Now the first step in all this is obviously deciding what I'm going to make for him. The three main ideas I came up with and wrote down are overalls, suspenders, and a puffer vest. And after writing the pros of each, I figured overalls would be the best idea because it already makes a full outfit so I don't have to worry about making two separate things. And the top half is pretty simple, so I mainly have to worry about making the pants. One more thing to note is I was about to see these family members in 3 days, so I really wanted to get it done by then. That's a pretty good amount of time, but I did just get my wisdom teeth out a few days prior, so I wasn't feeling the best, but I was gonna try. Okay, so now I need to start cutting out the patterns and really just drawing them out on paper because right now I have some sketches of what I want the pattern to look like. This is based off of the four-legged stuffed animal pants patterns I've done. So as you can see, this is an entire mess. So I'm going to work on the pants part first and just see if all of these measurements even add up to create a thing, because sometimes they don't. And that's the tough part about pattern making. Okay, really quick, I wanted to explain my process of making the pants because this is the least self-explanatory part of this. I did a combination of how regular pants are made for like a human or a Build-A-Bear that have like a seam right in the middle that match up because I wanted it to be pretty form-fitting on the stomach. But since he's in the sitting position, I also kind of combine that with the four-legged stuffed animal pattern where it's kind of like underwear shaped with added pant legs. So that's just a combination of both of those. So this first measurement goes around his waist, so it's about half of his waist measurement. And then this I measured kind of to where I want the pants to sit on his hips all the way back to where I want them to end on his back. So that's why there's this very long, weird measurement there. And the only difference I made with the four-legged pattern is usually they would connect up here, but it is kind of awkward that it's joined at the top when I'd prefer for it to be joined at the bottom where that seam will be. So I just decided to add it right here instead. And then the last thing that you'll see in the final pattern I cut out is a cut right here. And that's because there's just so much extra fabric here that like 14.5 inches versus 15.5 inches. This measurement obviously looks visually, just shape-wise, like it's going to have to be a lot longer. So that's what cutting this triangle out will do. It will shrink that so there's not so much extra fabric, but I can kind of maintain these dimensions. These are going to be really big, so I'm going to tape some of these together. Okay, now I'm just drawing it out as close as I can to the drawing. Stuff like the leg hole, I didn't really put measurements to, so I just had to guess. But I like to try fitting it on my stuffed animal to check how close I am and then adjusting from there. And you'll see later the little changes I made from trying this on. And now the top piece is pretty easy. I actually made overalls in a previous video, so I'll link that down below in case you have a more standard size stuffed animal that you want to make these for. Then the last piece beside the straps are just the pant legs, and I'm just doing a simple rectangle for this. Okay, let me show you how I figured out how to fit this pattern on him because this is the final pattern. And basically what it's going to do is this is the half like this. So I had to fold this piece in because I want this to kind of curve down like this and be, you know, fit like that. And then this way I wanted it to just kind of go around him like this because he does have a seam right here that kind of mimics that shape. So if I can sew it like that and just shorten this distance, which would be too long if it was just open, I think that's my option here. And then this is going to be where the top of the overalls. And I'm going to be cutting out 2 of these just so I don't have to do any hemming around here. So I'm going to just sew them good side to good side and turn it inside out. Okay, next is to actually go buy the fabric that I'm going to use to make this. And I don't always have to do this for videos because I do have a lot of fabric at home, but a lot of the times I do go and pick out a custom one if I already have a vision in mind. And specifically for this, I wanted a corduroy fabric to match the accents already on Kaloy. So before going to Joann's in person, I'm just looking online for their options, and I kind of just want to pick one out before I go there because I'm a planner. They did have a lot of colors, but I think I like this green one the best, since I did want to pick a color that complemented him that wasn't just a basic white or black. Okay, please enjoy this very shaky montage of me walking through Joann's because I do like to just walk down all the aisles and look at the fabric before getting down to business. Okay, I finally found the corduroy section and was looking for that duck green color I found online because it did say it was available at the Joann's I was going to go to, but I did not find it, so I just grabbed a cream color that I also thought would work. But asking an employee, they said to look like up above, and that's when I saw it. This whole process probably took about 20 minutes for me to get this fabric, but I finally got it, and it wasn't the exact color, but I don't even care. A place I always like to check is the remnants section because I usually don't need that much fabric for my projects anyway, and these are all 50% off, so I have found some good stuff here. I didn't see any ones I wanted to buy this time though. The only other thing I needed to get were some clasps because I kind of wanted to use this in place of buttons on the overalls because buttonholes were always kind of a struggle for me to do. So I'm going to have clasps on the inside but have buttons on the outside for looks. And this pack of 8 looks perfect, so I can just sew these on wherever I want. I also love looking at the button selection here, but I already have an assorted collection of buttons, so I'm going to use some out of there. And I, of course, happened to just run into the Squishmallow section and saw these mystery bags, which I have bought before, and it wasn't this specific, Mystery Squad, food theme, but the past one I got, I was pretty disappointed in, so I haven't gotten one since. But the fact that they were scented and showed the options you could get on there, I figured, I'm already here, my jaw hurts, I might as well treat myself. So watch out for a video where I unbox this. Also, these keychain ones are actually super cute too. Also, here are some other Squishmallows in fruit costumes, which are pretty fun. And some punny Halloween socks. And afterwards, I got myself a nice smoothie since I could still only eat soft foods from the surgery. Okay, before cutting anything out, I first need to iron the fabric, which is a step I really don't like doing, but I want this to look good and I'd have to do it later either way, so I'm just going to iron this now. And to get these creases out, I usually have to go in with a spray bottle right along where it's folded a lot, and then that gets them out. Now I can start pinning on all the patterns and cutting them out. And a lot of these I'm going to need 2 pieces of, so I prefer to just fold my fabric in half, pin on top of that, and then cut both out at the same time. And since corduroy has these lines, I wanted to make sure they were all in the vertical direction, which is typically how the fabric is used. So I planned it out so that all the pieces on the finished outfit will have the corduroy lines being vertical. Okay, now the process of putting this all together. I'm not going to show every single step, but I'm just going to try to talk through the footage I got because I know I didn't film everything. So this first step, I was working on the bottom half of the overalls, which are the pants, and usually the first step in everything is to hem a lot of different places, and that's the first step for me. I also want to make this really neat since I'm going to be giving this to someone. So I'm going to try doing all double folds to make sure there's no raw edges. Here's me hemming the top edge of the pants. And here's me connecting the two front pieces, which is going to be his stomach. Next, I'm sewing on the pant leg, good side to good side. And this is more similar to how I usually would sew on sleeves for like a t-shirt, but I'm doing this for pants. Throughout making this and at the very end, I'm going to be adding zigzag stitches to all of the raw edges where I sewed two things together to hopefully prevent the fabric from fraying too much. Within these clips, I sewed together the bottom of the pants with the bottom of the pant legs. Okay, now I'm going to try this on because I need to continually try these on to make sure they fit well, and I'm going to clean them up a little with this lint roller because the little pieces of this corduroy fabric are getting everywhere. And I mainly need to figure out how this back part is going to fit together because I wasn't sure if I made the pattern too big. And the bottom flaps worked out pretty well, but I wasn't sure if the back just had too much excess fabric. And after folding the sides in a little bit to account for the hem, I decided to cut some off, even more than what's shown here. I think I cut off way more later. But next, I turned this inside out and started pinning it, because that way I can just take it off of him and just start sewing, because now everything's going to be pinned good side to good side. So this way I can get the exact shape that I want. So that's a tip out there if you're really trying to get it the right shape. So now I'm just sewing the bottom up and those little side cuts. And now jumping around a little bit, I'm going to work on the top piece. And something I forgot to cut out earlier was a little pocket for the middle. So I just cut out a trapezoid shape and am hemming the sides. And now the obvious next step is to sew this to only one of the sides of the top piece and then eventually sew them good side to good side. But the problem is I got a little excited and already sewed the two pieces good side to good side and turned them inside out. So it was a little harder to sew this on as cleanly as I wanted to, and thought I pressed record, but I didn't. So unfortunately I did not get that clip. But now I'm just ready to sew the top piece onto the pants, so I pinned them together good side to good side and am sewing that on. And hopefully I hemmed the pants the right amount so that the middle piece completely covers all the raw edges, but mine was a little off, so I had to go in and hem a little bit more of the pants. It was pretty difficult though, so I need to find a better way to do this next time. Here is what it looks like though. Aside from this little, like, kind of fold here, it looks pretty good. I'm pretty sure I did go back and fix that. Okay, now I tried this on because I still haven't cut out the straps, so I need to measure that really quick. And now that I know the exact size where the top's going to end, this will give me a better idea of exactly how long I need to make these. And sorry this is completely out of frame, but I think it measured to be like 12 or something inches, so I added a little bit of extra just to be sure and cut out a rectangle of fabric that long. And for the width, I wanted to keep it really clean, so I made it double as thick as I wanted it to be. So I wanted it to be about 3/4 of an inch, so I extended mine to definitely over 1.5 inches, but at this point I wasn't really sure how I was going to fold in the edges, so I'll just explain when I get there. The method I decided to go with is folding over each edge a little bit and then folding that whole thing in half. So all the edges are sealed and one side will just be a lot thicker than the other. And this way you only have to sew one side to hem this, so that saves some time. But I decided to sew along both sides to make them symmetrical and went with a cream color thread to give it a little bit of style. I really wasn't sure if I should do this because I can't trust myself to sew completely straight. But the first side worked out pretty well, so I did the same thing to the other side. And it honestly helps that the corduroy has these vertical lines I can follow. Here is me barely showing the finished strap. Sorry, I don't know why that clip was so bad. Okay, I repeated that one more time for the second strap, and now is the fun part where I'm going to choose the buttons I want to add. I probably got this pack at Michael's, and it's just a bunch of assorted wacky buttons. And bringing in the strap to compare for the size, I think I want pretty big ones, especially since I'm using clasps and they won't even have to fit through any holes. I really like the texture of this one. It's just matte and smooth, and it's cream like the thread I chose. This little white one with the tan edges is also pretty cute. And even this brown, kind of clearish, it kind of reminds me of like a turtle for some reason. It's shiny like this. I feel like I see this on a lot of different pieces. I think that matches the green pretty well. And I'll give one more shout out to this cute wavy one. It doesn't really match this outfit, but I really like it. I eventually decided on the first button I showed, these matte big cream ones. I think how big they are really cute. Okay, so here I have the two straps. These two I already made one clean side, and I just did it in green because I wasn't sure how I would like it. But right before I add the buttons and the clasps and stuff, I just want to do the one last thing on my sewing machine, which is going to be just sewing the straps to the back. So this is the clean edge, so I'm going to make sure that's facing forward. Just tuck it in like that. And now checking from the front, since they aren't really held in, I just want to make sure that they reach. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, I think that's perfect. So I'm gonna just make sure these are even. So now I'm gonna pin it and double check. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Pinning. We're pinning. Okay. So now from the front, I pull these up. They should match up on the front an even amount. Once I've gotten it perfect, I'm just gonna sew right where I've pinned. Now I'm gonna add on the buttons to this, since I'm gonna avoid the whole buttonhole thing by just having the button on top and then having the clasp go like this. So I'm going to pick a spot right here. I think that looks cute. It kind of hides that green line, but you still see the corners peeking out. So now, since I'm going to do this in green thread to just give a contrast to the white, I'm going to make sure this is really pretty and just do X's between these 4 holes. And with just one hole through, it doesn't really determine where it's going to be, so hopefully I don't stab myself. Okay, there we go. Once you have that, it should be pretty much anchored. Okay, now that the button is on, I'm going to sew on the clasp. So this is the brand I got, Sew On Snaps. Okay, so this goes on the bottom, and since you are going to be able to see this when you open it up, I'm going to try to put this in a good spot, and then for the second one I'll actually check to make sure it fits his body right. So I think right here is good. I haven't used these before, but I guess you just sew on through these holes. Okay, putting it on, I think it just depends how like far you pull the pants up in the back and the front up. So I think right here is good. So that means I need to put this one a little bit above where the button is, which I think is a good spot, especially because I probably should have sewn this on first. I actually thought of doing it at the same time as the button, which would have also been a good idea, but I don't know if that's too much to do at once. And I want to make sure that I sew it on this way, so then they match up, because if I do it the other way, they are not going to match up. Okay, keep in mind, you can't go crisscross because that will block where it's supposed to connect. I may have to do this off camera. Okay, I did somehow manage to sew it on, but it was not easy. Okay, let's see if I can, there we go. Perfect, cute. Okay, now I just need to do the other side. Okay, hopping back on the voiceover because we need to finish this video up. Off camera, I sewed on the 2 clasps in the back, and I just did 2 at the top because that leaves him a little tail hole. And now the final step, if I'm going to give this to someone, is to try to clean up all the raw edges and cut off any tiny threads. So like I mentioned before, I'm doing a tiny zigzag stitch on the raw edges where 2 pieces were sewn together, and do still have a few places I didn't do that, so that's what I'm going to do now. And since the 2 straps cross in the back, I'm going to sew those together where they're supposed to cross just to make it easier to put on, and I think regular overalls you would buy are already like that. Okay, before doing the final try on, an essential last step is to clean up my room, because after making something like this, my room is more of a disaster than it usually is. And with this fabric specifically, there are just these teeny tiny pieces of corduroy everywhere. So I'm gonna vacuum all this up. So let me fold up this random chunky piece of fabric, which I think I did a pretty good job. It looks nice and neat now. And I tried to be quick by using my sister's little handheld vacuum, and it was not powerful enough. But I tried my best, and I think eventually went in with the lint roller. But it's finally time to see the before and after. I didn't nail the spinning chair transition I was going for, but you get the idea. I'm really happy with the way this turned out and think he looks amazing. And luckily I finished this the night before the party, so he was ready to go in the morning, and here's some footage of the drive, looking very shaky. Did not feel that bumpy in the moment though. And here he is finally back home on his own couch. My cousins and family really loved it, so that's all that matters. Now that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed this new style I tried out and got to see more about my process and behind the scenes of how I make these. Leave your comments for any fall themed videos you want to see next, and I'll see you next time. Bye!